Earl Grey and Design is a podcast about product design hosted by Dennis and John. This podcast is over when our teacup is empty, so let's get started. John, iOS 11 is out, and let's talk about the App Store.
And we're starting off with the App Store because, that's like the first thing you typically do when you install the OS and whatnot, right? So let's get into it. All right, so the biggest change is the shift fundamentally from the general I don't know what you call it, a grid view of sorts, or shelf view, more appropriate of the last iOS 10 and before App Store, to more of a feed view.
Yeah, it feels like a social media, social
very
networking,
LinkedIn, very Facebook, very Instagram. Totally. Yeah, we've gone very feed with this App Store.
So it feels very familiar.
Yeah, very, very familiar. I was skeptical when I first saw it, at WWDC. I was like, okay. Background, I have over 850 apps on my phone. Mm-hmm. The most I've ever had on my phone is like 980 or something like that. I should have just gone for a clean 1,000, but and so I am a heavy app discoverer. I have no issues buying apps. I'll give $1, $20, whatever, because I really value developer work and design work into things, especially for startup.
John and I pay $100 for OmniFocus, right?
Yeah, because I really value the work that goes into this stuff, and it's one of those things I think especially for productivity apps, it really pays for itself. So I have a lot of apps. I discover a lot of apps. I'm always seeing what's new and what's great for both industry level reasons and for personal interest.
Right.
So if there's any discoverer use case, I felt I would be that case for the App Store. But I was still skeptical because, in the old App Store, you see you can see about 16 apps at one time on one view, with those shelves going on there. Whereas with Feed, you get 1/5 of a cart. So, it's
sure.
So I was kind of worried about that. If that would take down discovery of new applications, make it harder for different, people. It was just different, in that sense. And I like different, but not when it's limiting information.
For me, I like it. I like this little switch. I was kind of getting bored of the old view a little bit. I'm into feeds. I enjoy feeds. I think that's probably one of my favorite things. But yeah, I kind of embraced it. I kind of like the switch. I was looking for something different. And I think, it's just aligning with other applications like Apple Music and stuff like that, right?
Yeah. In terms of the visual design and the general aesthetic of it, I actually did like that part a whole lot. I love the typography and, what iOS 11 has been doing, dramatically, and started with Apple Music.
Yeah.
And, I love the overall, aesthetics of the experience. And I love everything with the rounding of the cards. I love the way the cards feels. I love that they brought back those drop shadows. But the feed was a tough one for me. But I still feel that it might grow on me in some ways. And so we'll discuss that part a little bit more. But one example of a feed growing on me was the Nike, app for purchasing things. They went to a feed view for have a personalized, list of things that you're interested in and whatnot. And I thought it was dumb when I first saw it. But then actually started going to it and actually discovering new things from that, and which is weird for me because I'm not a shopper like that. But I still have the reservations about moving away from the shelf thing, and it might be just from attachment. It was a part of iTunes for the longest in both the desktop and the the mobile experience of iTunes back in the day. Everyone else has adopted this type of layout from the Google Play Store and whatnot, and so getting rid of shelves was a tough one for me.
Cool. So there's the big change is there's these big cards now, and why do you think they went in this direction for the first screen when you launched the App Store? Is it because they want to work with developers and other companies a little bit more?
I viewed it as more of a desire to organize content in a way that was more marketable. Basically, this gives them an easy opportunity to just instead of just marketing one application, they could say okay, for example, what we're looking at right now, says get started, let's code. I'm guessing tapping on this will just give a curated list of all the best applications for learning how to code, which is great. Technically they kind of try to do that with the the slideshow of the previous layout, but this is something that just stands out a little bit more from a marketable perspective for this sort of thing. So that's interesting. It kind of it kind of reminds me of Spotify a little bit.
Yeah.
And that it sets them up to be a great aggregator of playlists, but app playlists.
So we brought up the word social, right? We keep talking about there's some social aspects to this new App Store. And if we know Apple, they're probably laying the ground, the foundation of what could potentially be a more social experience with friends, family, whoever it may be. Because we also see this avatar profile image on the top right. So it wasn't there before. It hasn't been there before.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. I think they're giving us a little bit a taste of of just a little bit of what we probably could think might be coming in the future. So that could be an interesting thing. So let's jump into the second tab, which is the games tab. This was kind of an interesting move as well because I'm not a big gamer on the iPhone or on. I kind of stick with like game systems and consoles.
Yeah, same. Yeah.
But a lot of people love it. So the second tab on this in the App Store is just for games. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
Great move because I mean, like, you know, realistically, iPhone is the biggest platform for gaming right now. You know, me and you are just like core gamers where we, you know, use our Xboxes and our PlayStations and whatnot, and you know, we do it like, you know, but majority of people, like everyday people who wouldn't normally go to a console for gaming are gaming on their iPhones and using their like Candy Crush and all these other social games that are getting really popular and have like an unlimited amount of like, you know, annoying levels. Right. So I think that's a great move.
I think it's a great move too.
Yeah, because it just organizes things a bit. You could find it prior by going to categories and then games, but it's way too much like, you know, interaction there.
And I'm sure they have the numbers. I'm sure they're making a ton of money from these games and people are into it. So I think it's a good move on their end. And yeah, we'll just see. Maybe, who knows, we'll become gamers as well. Maybe we'll discover more games.
And speaking of numbers, that's something I'm very curious about this. You know, I mean, Apple, you know, doesn't tend to be the company that makes a lot of designs and decisions based on like, you know, a lot of research and, you know, numbers and whatnot. They kind of design more on emotion and how they feel about the product a little bit more than like, you know, more of your, you know, Google and your Facebook would. And so I do wonder how much of this is data driven or if it's like an experiment based on their emotion and they're just going to monitor and tweak based on that. I'm curious to see how it changes if things are going wrong. But unfortunately, there's really no way.
Let's jump into the third section of this app, which is apps. Yeah. But yeah, all the apps are in here. You can discover things. And what I love about this screen is very organized. Everything's kind of organized and it's simple and it's very easily, you can easily digest it in a way as well. Because as you're scrolling, there seems to be some breaks within the visual design as well.
Yeah, it's kind of like shelves, but like in a different sort of organization. So it's similar to what the prior home screen of the App Store was, except for they just have a different way of organizing it. It's not like it's like a longer shelf. Instead of going by like a flat, like horizontal list of lots of different icons with just a name underneath it, kind of like the launchpad on the main, you know, iPhone home screen. They kind of go with like a elongated list view. And, I do wish that they, you know, for this layout that they did go back to just a straight horizontal grid here of the past, mostly because I think it's kind of a waste of space a little bit. I feel like you can get more shelves out by condensing the heights there. And the data that they show here isn't really useful. Like, I mean, like the first thing I see here is an app called PLNAR, Augmented Reality Dimensioning. And that's just the category of the app, like the calculators underneath, and it says utilities. I don't really need to know that information that much. You know, it doesn't have to be that prominent. So like I much rather show 3.5 condensed icons on a very short shelf than to have like that additional space to it. I don't think it's great management. At the same time, the one other benefit to it, though, that I'm missing that might be good is that it does instantly say Get. On the prior Launchpad, you'd actually have to tap into the application to actually download the application. And whereas this is like takes out one interaction, I'm always down for like, you know, shortening the amount of interactions and, you know, taps necessary to do something. But overall, I like this because this is the feel of the prior home screen of the App Store. And this, you know, this is just a lot more like, you know, relatable to me. And I just feel way more comfortable with this as my discovery method.
Yeah, totally. And, I almost, for myself, I wish this was like the home screen. When I launched the app, I just land here.
Exactly, because they give plenty of room for marketing with now the slideshow is now way bigger here. So like the top part, they could very well use that for the marketing of the clusters and whatnot. But I'm okay with it. I think I'm interested in the Today tab, which is like the main the home tab of this app. I'm interested to see how it changes. I know there's a timeline, like today's is different from yesterday's and the day before, so I'm interested in how that's going to change. Can I ask you an interaction question from your preference? Okay, so let's say this was the home screen. The app screen was the home screen. And so you relied upon this top slideshow area as your marketing standpoint. Do you think you'd scroll as much with the H scroll as you would for the, as you would V scroll for the feed on the prior screen?
I probably wouldn't.
No, I'm thinking I probably wouldn't as well. And that's generally the trend with H scrolling. You know, that's, you know, as much as I love the paper app that Facebook put out a while back, it introduced so many amazing gestures and amazing design that's been integrated in the main Facebook app over the years, although paper has been discontinued. One of the flaws to it is that people don't like to do a whole lot of H scrolling. It works well to like break things up every now and then, and people will do it to a certain degree, especially if it's like a free spin wheel as opposed to like a paging type of example of scrolling. There's some like physics involved in the scroll. So in general, you don't want to do a whole lot of H scrolling. The V scroll is just way more natural, feels better on the thumb. For me, literally doing a lot of H scrolling with my thumb actually hurts my thumb after a while. Like remember my issue with paper is like, like 20 scrolls in, you're like, oh, I'm tired of this.
Okay, so overall, like we're not going to jump into the updates into the search too much.
Not too much changed from search. In fact, I don't think anything really changed from search other than like the typography things and updates. Yeah, it's Dennis was mentioning that like,
shout out to Medium and Trello who have like the best release notes ever. So check those out. So so overall, like what do you think Apple's trying to solve with this new app store experience?
So I think overall Apple's mission here is just to have a new, fresh way of marketing. And we know that's Apple's like cup of tea, like to the tea. I didn't mean to say tea that many times, but this is Earl Grey.
Pun. No pun. Yeah.
And so I think we're looking for a fresh way to market the App Store. And sometimes like, even if the change isn't dramatically better than your past layout or better at all than your past layout, sometimes a good change when you're trying to market in a different way is worthwhile. If Apple just stuck to their old like iPod commercial styles of marketing over and over again, as iconic as it is, it can get worn out. And so sometimes a fresh change from a marketing perspective does a world of wonder, and I think that might be part of it. Another part of it is just clustering and organizing playlists of application a lot better to kind of like modernize their store experience and get people like downloading apps again. Because while I have hundreds of apps, your average person only has like 8 to 12 apps on their phone. And so there's a need to actually get people like trying out more apps rather than the basic stuff they're used to downloading when they get a new phone, like YouTube and Facebook and LinkedIn and all the normal stuff.
Cool. So for me, it's a couple of things. I think they're trying to find a way to better market and work with developers and third parties and companies, whatever it may be. I think these are the beginnings of something down the road. That's my prediction. More social, more engaging. That could be the route. I don't know. The other thing that I think they're addressing also is the consistency throughout the entire iOS ecosystem. And I think Apple Music has kind of been like that pioneer, like, hey, let's play around with some things, let's try some things. And it seems to be working. So it seems like they're picking some stuff from over there.
How far have they changed, right? I would have never called Apple Music or old school iTunes a pioneer in anything with this. I've had my issues with iTunes over the years as much as I'm like relying upon it. But Apple Music has dramatic turnaround has been great for like pushing out fresh new ideas from Apple. Really cool. It's been translating very well. And Apple Today, it's like they knew Dribble, the Dribble app. That's funny. Although I don't really use Dribble anymore, but like it makes me really happy to see that pink basketball.
Cool. So really quickly, what do you give it from a 1 to 10?
It's 7.5 for me. I think the design, the aesthetics of it are incredible. Apple's very rarely going to fail you with that. And the interactions are pretty clean and easy and whatnot. It's just some information architecture issues I have with it, and tiny things. And I could be wrong with some things about the metrics app. I'm feeling that that this would decrease discovery. But I could very well be wrong on that.
Cool. All right. Yeah, I'm around the same way. I won't do too many halves throughout the series, so I'll give it a 7. I'm happy with it. I'll embrace the change. I have a feeling this is the beginnings of something much bigger. I could be wrong. We'll find out in a couple of months, maybe a year from now. But yeah, overall, it's pretty good. So that does it for today's episode. If you are looking for product design help, maybe you have a product that needs some critiquing, please visit angelocamachogroup.com. Thanks for listening. Cheers.